moving on, I want to show you guys a method from the event object called preventDefault. And just like the name says, it prevents the default behavior of whatever element that you want it to. Okay, and it doesn't work on all events, but it works on most events. Okay, in JavaScript, you see I added a set interval to have this counter increase every second. Okay, but if we refresh the page, then it resets to 0. You see why this is useful later on. Now, on all forms, once you fill it out and you press enter or save or whatever, its default behavior is that it refreshes the page, then it sends your information to the server, right? So if I press save, the counter went back to 0 because the page refreshed. But sometimes we don't want that. We don't want the page to refresh every time the user enters and saves their name. So here's where event.preventDefault comes in. So E right here, e.preventDefault. We save it. Now I type it in. Let's watch this timer right here. I click save. The timer keeps going. Okay. So we prevented the default. If you notice, we also prevented the other part of the default, is that it was setting the username to whatever we typed. But now it doesn't do that anymore because that's part of its default as well. Okay. All right. Now, prevent default is not only useful for text. Let me show you something else as well. Let me comment that out. Comment this out. And then let me uncomment this. Then in JavaScript, I will also uncomment this. Okay, so we have a checkbox, right? Normally, when you click on a checkbox, it gives you a blue check, right? This is just input type checkbox, nothing fancy. But because right here, we use event.preventDefault, let's see what happens. It does not check it. Okay, it says checking prevented by e.preventDefault from this line right here. If we take away this whole function, it works. Okay, if we put preventDefault back on, it's not going to work anymore. All right. Now, as I said before, some events cannot be prevent defaulted, right? Like the onInput event. You can't stop someone from typing in a form that way. There's other ways you can do that in JavaScript itself, but you can't use prevent default. Okay? But for most events, you can. All right, I hope that was helpful. Let's keep going.